Hi everybody, Wendy from Cinnamon Sweet Shop. Finally, I am making for video a black and white cookie. I've been wanting to make this for a while. The one thing that really has sort of held me back is one ingredient that I use in here that I really don't like using. For those of you who've been following my videos, you know I hate using corn syrup in anything. This recipe, it does use corn syrup, but it's not going to be a lot of corn syrup, so I'll go ahead and do it. For what we're using it for, we're using it for the icing. I do need a clear, thick consistency like corn syrup. In other recipes, there are many other things you can use to substitute corn syrup. For black and white cookies, you want something totally clear, so I can't use some of the other things I would normally use, like maple syrup, or I have even used tapioca syrup, which is pretty okay. But because I need it clear, it's really all I can use. I have tried recipes that have used the sugar syrup substitutes or the glucose. They come out really great tasting. They look fine at first, but eventually they do crystallize. So that's why in this recipe we are using corn syrup. As I said, not a lot. So with all that being said, here's what you'll need. And I am going to cut the sugar down anyway in other aspects. Whole wheat pastry flour, baking soda. Here's I'm using Smart Balance brand today, but it's vegan butter. Little bit of salt. For sugar, you could use granulated. I am using my Stevia sugar blend. It's mostly erythritol and stevia extract and some regular sugar mixed in, so it kind of tastes more like real sugar. Buttermilk. I do like the low-fat buttermilk. Make sure you shake it real well before you pour it. And 1 egg. And then we're going to use vanilla extract, of course. So for the icing part, this looks like, if you can see it, because it blends in with the bowl, it looks like a lot of confectioner sugar. But I'm using a combination of about half, 3/4 to half confectioner sugar, and then the rest is my homemade confectioner sugar using, you guessed it, stevia blend. So it's a lot less sugar than it would normally be. Dutch processed cocoa powder. Guys, if you can't find Dutch processed, or you don't want to spend an astronomical amount of money on it because it is expensive, Hershey's Special Dark, it's right next to the Hershey's Unsweetened, same thing for a lot less. I'm going to use some water. Again, as I said, the corn syrup, and then some lemon juice, and we're going to use vanilla extract in this as well. Real quickly, I'm going to whisk together the flour, the baking soda, and the salt. Then I'm going to just add some of my vanilla to the buttermilk. Just give that a quick stir. Now this is softened. This is my Earth Balance, or my Smart Balance rather. And we're going to beat this together with your sugar for a couple of minutes until it's light and fluffy. Oops. Then blend in the egg. So now we're going to blend in the flour and the buttermilk mixture alternatively. So I'm going to do about, I'll do about half flour, that is. And then I'm going to blend that in just until it's blended. Be sure to scrape down the sides because it will stick up there. Then add in about half the buttermilk. Combine. Now I'm going to add in the rest of the flour. Mix just until it's well combined. Then the remaining buttermilk. I like these big. You can make them any size you want, but I'm going to be using 1/4 cup of batter for each cookie. So I'm just scooping it out. You can eyeball it, of course. It's about 1/4 cup. It's not total. And I do have a silicone mat. Now, if you don't have one of these things, you want a buttered pan. And I just plop this down on my cookie sheet. They will spread, so you want to make sure they're a good 2 inches apart from each other. I'm going to bake these in a 350-degree oven for about 14 to 17 minutes. What I'm looking for is that they will be a pale brown and that they will be springy. So when I touch inside, it should spring right back. This is a little bit of a cakier type of cookie. Now, while I'm waiting for my cookies to cool, I'm going to be making the icing. So I have my confectioner sugar, you know, my mixture. And to that, I'm going to add in the lemon juice, some of the vanilla extract. Don't forget all of these measurements I do have at my website, which is linked below. I'll probably mention that again at the end of the video. Add in that corn syrup. Again, not a lot, just a tablespoon. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon of some regular room temperature water. And I want to mix this around till it's smooth. If it's not smooth, well, then you can just add more water. But you want to do it a little bit at a time so you don't get it too thin. Now, I do have this nice and smooth and lump-free. I did have to add a little more water. Actually, it's a little too thin, but that's okay because as this sits, it does tend to thicken. So I'm going to take half of this and pour half into another bowl. You could be picky and measure it out. I'm not. I'm just going to eyeball half. And to this, you're going to add the cocoa powder. I did sift this because cocoa powder can be a little lumpy. So I sifted this, add this in, and you're going to find that because we're adding a dry ingredient, it's going to be thicker. So after I mix this in, at least a little bit so I don't have this flying all over the place, I'm going to add a little bit more water, but you only want to add maybe about half a teaspoon at a time. You know, again, you don't want it too thin. And you just add enough until it's the same consistency as your white. And if you accidentally make it too thin, you could add a little bit more confectioner sugar and that'll thicken it up a little bit. So it's not the end of the world either. So I took my cookies and I turned them upside down so that the flat side's facing up. I do have a mat under here. You could use parchment paper or towel, anything, because this part can get a little drippy. And I'm going to start by taking a spatula and just covering half the cookie with your white icing. As you see, it's going to drip down the sides. No way to really do this neatly. And I'm going to go through all of them. I like to scrape a little bit to avoid some of the drip. I'll do it this half. And if you overdo half of it, it's not a big deal because we are going to cover it with the chocolate. Well, then you're going to take your chocolate and fill the other half with the chocolate icing. You'll notice too, the chocolate seems to be thicker anyway than the vanilla. If you want to get real different, you can make these all chocolate or all vanilla. And then of course they wouldn't be called black and white cookies, but you can call them whatever you want and decorate them whatever you want. I'm going to let these set. They will harden and thicken a little bit more. The measurements for all these ingredients are at my website, cinnamonsweetshop.com, which I also have linked below. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel for much more coming up, and I'll see you all next time.